We know what we want.
I
Yeah.
would never.
Between us.
I know. Casey, you ready?
Whatever you want.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Have a roll call, please.
Brian Crawford.
Here.
Leonard Knapp,
Here.
Monty Matalago.
Here.
Euless Simeon,
Present.
Jared Ricky,
Here.
Lenore Feeney.
Here.
Erica Dorsey. And Jason Hanneman.
Like, moment of silence, please. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm assuming we've received no requests to speak to the commission on items on the agenda other than.
We just received one from Ms. Gerard, just reserving the right to speak on number 4.
She would be a party, so represents a party at least. All right, we'll move on then. First business item on the agenda is consideration of the minutes from October 13, 2022 meeting. Does anyone
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we adopt those minutes.
move?
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Consideration of a request from the Office of State Police for the 2-year reauthorization of 2 part-time WAE positions. Understand we have a representative here. And I also understand these were some that just didn't make the list last time we met. Is that?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The last, the 2 that we're speaking of today. Well, good morning, everyone. Shabazz Cameron, Assistant Superintendent, Chief of Staff for State Police. You're exactly right, Mr. Chairman. The 2 that we're bringing before the commission this morning were scheduled to come up on October's meeting. And the meeting was pushed to today. So as we've done in the past, again, I come before you just asking for your authorization to renew 2 WAE positions. Both positions are very critical and needed with the work that they're doing. One in particular is housed in our concealed handgun section. And this position is responsible for assisting with the filing of applications, responding to appeals, handling the request for concealed gun applications, and also assisting in areas where we would typically have a commissioned personnel. With the fact that we are, again, still filling the ranks of the department and dealing with personnel shortages, this position has been very critical and helpful to allow us to free up our uniform personnel to handle other assigned public safety essential functions. That is the one for concealed handgun. The other,
Before you move on to the other.
Yes, sir.
Just have a couple of questions for you. Is that position being currently filled by a retired trooper or?
yes, sir. It's currently filled by a retired trooper, and also there's a caveat. He has law degree behind him, so a lot of what he does helps to speak to some of the appeals that we do handle and receive in this concealed handgun section.
You know how much time is it?
On an average, and I thank you for last time because I came in here, didn't have that information, but I do have, thanks to our head of HR agenda has provided me with the average that this particular position has been working is roughly some regular hours, but a little overtime as well. because of the mass number of applications that we have and the influx of concealed handgun permits that have been requested. He has actually been filling and helping out, even working some overtime hours in his position to get some of that work done.
Do you anticipate it will remain that way? I know you can't predict the future on applications, but has there been a particular reason why there's been an influx recently, change in law, anything like that?
Well, I believe, as you know, with the with the change in trend across the world, many folks are opting to get concealed carry permits. Some laws have changed in states, and I think that's part of the increase, that a lot of folks are interested in becoming concealed carry certified or approved. So that's what we're seeing, the influx. It's actually been that way for a couple of years now. Actually, Mr. Chairman, we've saw influx in those applications that have come through our department.
Anybody else have questions on that particular position? All right, why don't you move on?
All right, the second position, this position, and some of you may know, have relatives who may have called, but we have a position that, this next position actually handles a lot of the physical inspection duties that come through our Office of Motor Vehicles. This position is housed at headquarters on the compound, and this particular position deals with a lot of the inspections of physical of the motor vehicles that come through. Anytime someone buys a car and needs to get registration that don't have all the paperwork, this position actually helps us facilitate the proper paperwork getting processed and the inspections on the vehicle, where we have to physically inspect the vehicle to ensure that everything that's being submitted is accurate and up to date before they proceed and go and receive or ask for registration through the Office of Motor Vehicles. A very critical position. And we also, it's a dual role, because in the event that there's a hurricane or a natural disaster where we need additional personnel, this particular position also is available to work in the essential role if we need it to call them out or call her out in this position to help out with any other services that may be needed in a time of a emergency.
Same questions about the other.
Yeah, this particular position on the average is about 27 hours that we've seen on a week. Not as many hours as our other position that we just spoke of. But again, it is critical. If we didn't have this WA position, we would have to pull someone, because there's a long line, many days of folks that need this particular work or need this paperwork looked at and the vehicles inspected. We would then have to pull folks from Troop A or the local headquarters area to go and sit and work at our Office of Motor Vehicles here in Baton Rouge to help process these particular requests. So this is a critical need as well, and I ask for your consideration of renewing it.
Anyone else have any questions? And I know you're not going to be prepared for this today because we hadn't asked for it before, but I'd like to see going forward, and maybe you could submit a report to our executive director, is a breakdown on all of the positions, race, gender, whether they're former troopers or not, and give us that kind of information going forward on all of the positions. Yeah.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I swear, I think you're somewhere in our office, because we just talked about that. We have a list of myself.
Find my bug.
I'm telling you, we just asked for that information. I wanted to get a total list of all of our WAEs. Just in looking in the process of making this better, coming before you every meeting, I wanted to find a way, and then soliciting recommendations from our executive director and our HR team. We're going to look forward in January. The plan is to come before you with 3 months in advance. That way, per quarter, we'll present to you the lists that are due within that quarter. That way, you'll have the whole list in advance, and we will not hopefully run into any deadlines that may not be met or may be up for renewal and then they expire. So we're trying to make the process better, and I will make sure that we provide a list of those WAE positions that we have across the department.
And if there's other statistical data that you think might be pertinent other than the ones I mentioned, because that was just on the top of my head, please add that and provide it to our executive director.
Most certainly will. Thank you, sir.
Do we have any motions to approve?
I would second it.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Like the ayes have it.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So you don't have to get up. I think you're next on the agenda. The next item on the agenda is updates from the Department of Public Safety and Corrections, Office of State Police. I think this is last time we talked about some of the programs and things and improvements that y'all are working on. And we wanted to give you an opportunity to kind of give us an update on those things, the various things. I understand there are many things in the works right now. So please take whatever time you need.
Thank you. And if you
We
don't
and the
mind,
public want to hear about it.
absolutely, we appreciate that. I've asked our experts, our folks, and some of the highlights I'm going to speak to you about to represent as well, sit here at the table with me. I want to be prepared and make sure that we can answer any questions that you as the commission body may have for us. But I'll start us off. And first off, I want to really just thank you for allowing us to have this opportunity. On behalf of Colonel Lamar Davis and the men and women who represent the Department of Public Safety, I'm honored to come before you and present several updates that I believe this body and the communities that we serve would want to know about. As you know, our department has been taking a top to bottom, side by side look at how we do business. We have solicited the critique and assessment of the Bowman Group. We have welcomed and stand in cooperation with the DOJ. And moreover, we are looking at any recommendations that would help to make our department better. We're not only looking at,
Just a second, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but why don't you just give us a little more detail on who the Bowman Group is for the
yes, sir.
public consumption?
Earlier in this year, matter of fact, prior to this year, we were looking at what is it that we can do to create an assessment to get a better look at what our department is doing, the areas that we may be falling short in, what areas where we can improve in. And early on, as you recall, Colonel Davis started an audit group. With that audit group, we looked at videos of use of force incidents and what have you. We learned that through that experiment, it would have taken we needed a much broader look at what the department needed to be better and be more efficient. Soliciting some assessment groups, the department colonel decided to go with a group called the Bowman Group. The Bowman Group is led by Mr. Bowman, who is a renowned expert on assessing departments, very knowledgeable in dealing with the DOJ concerns and critiques as it relates to consent decree. We chose to go with that particular group to do an assessment, and it's made up of several experts from the law enforcement background, from the academia background, professional background as it relates to assessments of organizations such as ours. That's why we chose the Bowman Group, and they're looking at all areas in the department as it relates to recruiting, use of force incidents, culture building, procedural justice. We're looking at use of force, training, retention, you name it. Commissioners, we're trying to do a top to bottom look at everything that we are responsible for. So that is in a nutshell what the Bowman Group is looking at. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the assessment launched somewhere around maybe February, March-ish. We're expecting from the indications from them, maybe it will be a 12-month assessment. So we hope to hear back from them at the conclusion of that assessment. And I'm sure you'll be privy to that information as well.
Thank you.
All right, as I stated, we definitely welcome the assessments from the Bowman Group, and we're standing in cooperation with the DOJ. We're not only looking at how we do business, but we also are looking at what are the expectations of the why we do what we do. And to be quite frankly with you, from a CEO's perspective, who is Colonel Davis, the senior command staff and all the commanders across the department, we're all ensuring that every person who represents this agency not only understand the how and the why, but ultimately they understand the vision, the mission, the standards, the values that we all aim to maintain and keep as your elite and premier law enforcement agency. Please make no mistake about this. We're listening. We're hearing you. We're hearing the community. We're listening to the folks that are doing the work, the troopers and the personnel on the ground, as well as our counterparts on how we can be better at what we do. So today, I just want to share with you 6 areas of updates that have been launched and are in the works as we speak. And again, we are all here and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions at the conclusion of this presentation. So first, I want to just start off with the first update, and it is a training platform that we're using and we're about to launch. It's called ABLE. ABLE, which represents or stands for Active Bystandership for Law Enforcement. In other words, it's really a duty to intervene program. It was created by the Georgetown University of Law Innovative Policing Program, and it evolved from the Ethical Policing is Courageous peer intervention program model that the New Orleans Police Department launched in 2015. This program is designed to train and change the mindset of officers on how to give intervention, how to receive it, and how to follow up on that intervention to prevent future harm. ABLE empowers officers with the ability to intervene, to reduce officers' mistakes, prevent misconduct, promote health and wellness, and it serves as a vehicle for true cultural change. And we're pleased that we have been accepted through the ABLE program. As a matter of fact, we were the first state police agency to be accepted by this Georgetown university initiative. All of our state police commissioned personnel will receive this training, and we're starting it with the top. Our senior command staff will sit in and go through this training first. We'll have Lieutenant Brian Lee is sitting to my left, and he'll be here to answer any questions. He's one of our lead instructors for ABLE. I've asked him to join us at the table. The second update I want to cover for you today is called the LEADS training. LEADS.
Well, before we leave,
Mhm.
Abel, why don't you just give us a brief pause after each one in case any of the
Absolutely.
commissioners have questions about any specific topic.
Yes, sir.
One question I have is how long, kind of a timetable have you set up that it, for this training to occur?
Start this training at the beginning of the year. It's probably going to take place 2 sessions with the command staff. Once we complete the training with the command staff, we're going to start all the commission personnel. It's a 8-hour course that each one of the personnel will go through along with continuing education the following year.
So it's going to approximately take a year to go through all the troopers,
We're going to aim for
the department.
approximately 6-month time frame. We hope to get it taken care of before then. We're going to work with the training academy with the in-service schedule and try to get everybody done between those dates.
So the course will be integrated into your initial training too.
No, sir. So we're going to try to work it separate of in-service, but we're going to work with the training academy to make sure we have dates where we're not interfering with manpower. And we have 17 instructors, so we got to work with those instructors and get everybody done. There's 2 instructors per class.
Thank you.
So I understand, this is Colonel Davis. I'm sure is behind it. How are the troopers taking to the announcement of this additional training?
So I'll speak to this. ABLE, in and of itself, the model is really taking off across the nation with other law enforcement agencies. As I stated, we were the first. And as I last checked, there were Massachusetts, Illinois, Colorado, New Jersey. How the group, how the team, the troopers are receiving it, with anything, change is definitely always something that most would probably resist first until they understand what it's about. We are in a stage of police reform, so a lot of what we're rolling out comes at the optics of we're changing the way we do business. I can tell you, I sat in this ABLE training in 2015, and what it does, whether you accept it or not, it gives the officers the opportunity to intervene if they're involved in a situation with another officer, and that officer may be losing his cool, her cool, may be acting out of character. It gives the authority and the ability, and we're giving the officers now confidence to step in and intervene. So I would assume or think that most would be receptive of this because it gives you coverage to step in and intervene if something is not right. Whereas in the past, in the culture of policing, it's often reserved that you do not step in, or the culture is you don't want to make it seem as though you're the one stopping someone from doing something that they really should not be doing. We're trying to change that. So to answer your question, I don't know specifically how they're receiving it, but I hope that the message is coming across clear and boldly that we're making a difference to give and empower our personnel to make a difference.
And I know from talking to you, the part of it will be a protection for the officer on this trooper who in fact chooses to step in. Why don't you just elaborate on that a little?
Yes, and this is in policy. So this will be in policy under the duty to intervene process. What happens is it creates a protection for retaliatory responses or retaliatory action if that officer does in fact step in and there's issues or concerns. This officer will be protected through policy, through procedure, through our course of training on that this behavior will not be accepted. So that's what we're looking forward to, and we're hoping that this program will definitely empower our officers to step up and be courageous when there is incidents where their fellow peer may be acting out or doing something against policy or outside of policy.
You say this has been implemented in New Orleans in 2015,
Yes, sir.
and what has been the experience of the New Orleans Police Department?
I can tell you, being born and raised in New Orleans, I still have a lot of ties and connections down there and talking to a lot of the officers. It's actually an incentive for officers to go through the training. The incentive that they get, they have a pin that speaks to the fact that they went through this training. They were courageous enough to get the training and understand that they are protected in the event that they do step in a situation where it could be questioned or the officer appears acting out. The response that I've gotten is that it's taking off. It's not only taking off within the New Orleans Police Department, but there are several other agencies that are now instituting or looking at becoming ABLE or EPIC certified agencies.
Thank you.
The second update I want to share with you is a training that speaks to de-escalation strategies. And the name of the training is Law Enforcement Active De-Escalation Strategies. In other words, it's LEADS, LEADS training. So in March of 2021, our training academy and operational development staff, along with a few members of our department, were tasked with finding the best and most suitable de-escalation training curriculum for our agency. After doing a comprehensive and nationwide review of some of the best ranked vendors, the department chose this LEADS program because it included in-depth training related to procedural justice, legitimacy in policing, and building trust within the communities that we serve. This program teaches de-escalation techniques, conflict resolution, and active diffusion strategies. It also focuses on verbal and nonverbal interview skills, body language interpretation, and professional and non-threatening posture. I'm gonna pause for a moment to just kind of, I know I'm speaking and giving you terms, but let me make it in layman's term, what does that mean? As you see the widespread of use of force incidents and deadly force confrontations occurring across the nation, advocates for social and procedural justice, like lawmakers and our other law enforcement agencies all across the country, have really embraced this de-escalation training. You've heard about it in the last couple of years that we have to look at doing better with training our folks, our personnel on de-escalation tactics. And this is one of those trainings that we believe will also give our personnel an added level of training on how to embrace an encounter that they may see, whether it's observing someone else's body language or just being mindful of their tone and body language as they interact with the public. So this training, we truly believe will help to create safer interactions between our officers and the public that we serve. And we see that it's been proven to be successful with other agencies such as St. Louis Police Department. I was reading an article about it, and they've seen like about 28% in decrease of use of force incidents because of this de-escalation training. And we're hoping for some of the same success. It should be also noted that the Department of Justice has reviewed and endorsed this particular training that we're instituting. And just last November, we graduated 23 cadets. Cadet Class 101 was the first in our department. The 23 cadets, new troopers, were the first to be trained in this LEADS training program. So we look forward to also rolling it out. And we expect that all LSP commissioned personnel will be trained and receive this training in the year 2023.
So obviously, there's a lot of recent concern about situations where maybe There could be some better de-escalation. I'm not naming or referring to any one particular incident, but I mean, obviously that has been an issue. But we're just as concerned about the potential danger to the troopers. Is there any evidence that this does not in fact create an additional danger for the troopers? And does it reduce the likelihood of danger to them as well?
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, thank you for that question. I'll speak to the elephant in the room when we relate to the de-escalation training. Some of the pushback, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, some of the pushback is that this training could prevent some troopers or police officers from reacting like they should. Because it calls for a pause and basically taking a step at looking at the totality of the situation rather than rushing right in and making a quick decision under stress. We are reiterating through our training the proper techniques and signs to look for, and hoping that our officers will be able to react under stressful situations much better, much more educated in their response and being mindful of their interactions. But also, to your point, Mr. Chairman, we are putting emphasis on not having them doubt or second guess decisions that need to be made.
I know you told me there was was it St. Louis?
St. Louis, yes, sir.
That you said they've seen a decrease in the number, statistically, the percentage of use of force. Has there been any review as to how it has affected officer safety in that city that's been using this for some time?
I can't speak to it specifically as far as that's concerned. I do know that one stat that did stick out to me that was interesting was they noted a 28% decrease in use of force incidents.
Why don't you see if you can find whether or not there's any statistical data on what's the effect on officer safety as well? Because we're concerned about both of those things. Obviously, we're concerned about the danger to the public, and we as a force cannot have that sort of reputation, but we also have to be concerned about the safety of the troopers as well.
Absolutely.
See if you can find anything on that.
Will do. All right, any other questions on the leads training? All right, I'll move to our third update for you, and this one is
It's Commissioner Crawford.
Yeah, I didn't know we were through with all the training. So on the ABLE training and the lean training, I just want to ask a quick question about the application of those training modules and how much of that is classroom and cognitive didactic based and how much of that is practical scenario based. Because, as much training as you guys do, reading a book or having an instructor show you a video is one thing, but role playing in those types of incidents where you have officers that are engaging in practical exercises can oftentimes, provide greater positive effects on the officers being able to see how something can de-escalate with an actual scenario role play. And then as opposed to just you doing the classroom part. So is there any part of that in that 8-hour training that you're doing as well?
yeah, I'll defer to Lieutenant Lee on the ABLE training.
Yeah, so with the ABLE training, it's all science-based training. So there are experiments that we conduct throughout the training as well as role playing. And that's about 25% of that program, that 8-hour day, that's going to be dedicated to actual role playing scenarios. And they vary from actual you intervening with a physical confrontation to you intervening where you notice a fellow trooper may be suffering from just fatigue, long stressful week, and how to go up and make that intervention successful. And not only that, how to accept the intervention. So that's the other thing, is making troopers aware that, hey, if things start to get bad, people will intervene, and you need to be willing to accept that intervention and not block it.
And that includes subordinates to supervisor intervention?
Yeah, so that's one of the things ABLE breaks down also is the rank structure. It talks about reasons people do not intervene. And that's one of the things that really opens your eyes to it. It's lack of knowledge of the actual job, where you may have an FTO and a trainee that truly doesn't understand that position. And they see something where they doesn't necessarily feel that it's right, but they don't really know how to interact. So this breaks that barrier down. And the same thing with the supervisors. If you're a trooper and you have a supervisor that's stepping outside of it, it talks to that supervisor during that class and tells that supervisor how to accept that intervention and how to tell that trooper to approach the supervisor as well.
So, and back to administration. So when we have a scenario that plays out in real time, you have a subordinate that confronts a supervisor on the scene. So what are the mechanisms in place for the administration and the organization to review that incident to see, if something was carried out appropriately according to their training, or somebody, a subordinate overstepped their bounds? I say this from the position of a former fire chief, and we had individuals that, subordinate to my rank, thought I wasn't doing a good job all the time, and that happens in the field too. So how do you protect against that?
So I'll answer it this way. And when I sat in the training, when New Orleans instituted it in 2015, one of the things that's taught in the class is that when it comes to duty to intervene, out of respect for rank, if you're out of control and you're a sergeant and a trooper steps in, that trooper is covered through policy, procedure to have the ability to step in. And as New Orleans Police calls it, ethical policing is courageous. That's exactly what it means. That we want folks to understand that at some point, just because you have rank, you still have the unfortunate human ability to act out or lose your cool. Captain can then step into a colonel and say, "Hey, Colonel, I need you to cool off. Come here, take a walk with me," while the other officer handles the situation. These are the scenarios that are taught in that ABLE training, that they have the ability to understand and recognize that.
I guess my question though, is who reviews when a subordinate steps in front of a supervisor that's not appropriate? What I'm saying is, if the subordinate thinks, "Oh, the supervisor's out of control, I need to step in and take charge of this situation," when really the supervisor's not, and he's just doing his job, but perhaps there's some personality issue between the subordinate and the supervisor, and he sees this as an opportunity. So what protects the supervisor in that role when a subordinate does something that is, like I said, who reviews this to say, "You know what, you were not, that was not an appropriate use of this ABLE or this lean training. Your supervisor was correct in his approach to this situation. You overstepped in believing that there was something that you needed to de-escalate when it really wasn't there." So what I'm saying is it's got to be looked at on both sides, because you want to empower all of your personnel to step in those scenarios that you're talking about that does need to be de-escalated. But when you give every person that authority to make that call on their own, what is in place to ensure that they're making the right call, especially when you're looking at a subordinate to a supervisor and calling their judgment into question? And I'm not questioning the fact that that does happen and it does occur. I'm just saying, what are the safeguards on both sides when it wasn't appropriate for a subordinate to step in front of a supervisor, and I guess what he saw potentially as an escalating situation really wasn't there in the eyes of maybe everybody else on the scene.
So let me see if I can answer it this way, Commissioner Crawford. In those particular situations, it is my hope that through the training that we can teach those scenario situations where it is on the other side of the way of happening, not appropriate for that subordinate to step in and stop a supervisor from acting appropriately. My hope is that through mentoring, coaching, and training, we can ensure that those situations are handled. If it does happen, there's a mechanism that we will follow through procedurally, whether it be through an investigation, and we resolve the conflict that occurred, train and make sure that we correct the behavior so it won't happen again. But we use those situation scenarios to continue to train our personnel in the event that those situations occur, so that they know what to look for and what not to do.
Right. And at the end of the day, that's kind of what I'm looking for, is the fact that it's going to happen.
Yes, sir.
At some point when you empower every individual to do this, and rightfully so. But you're going to have situations where I just want to make sure from a policy standpoint, when these situations, and hopefully they're few and far between, but when they do occur, there's an additional layer of review of that particular incident where a subordinate stepped in front of a supervisor, and it found to be incorrect or whatever. That's used for future training, and say, this scenario played out last year. This was not a proper venue for the subordinate to step in front of the supervisor. So we want to teach that technique too. So that's all I'm saying. I think I'm encouraged for the training. I think it's necessary. I think it's needed. But I just want to make sure that there are the ground rules for subordinates and supervisors are understood, because what you don't want to happen is a subordinate step in front of a supervisor, the subordinate's now charged with insubordination. So you got the subordinate saying, oh, well, I've had this training, now I'm empowered, and you're getting a little too excited. You need to calm down, captain or what have you, when really maybe it wasn't there. Now the subordinate is possibly engaging in insubordination toward a supervisor. So I think there's a fine line there. And I think, we trust you administratively to make sure that you have governance and policy and review to cover all that. So it doesn't end up here in front of us where we have a scenario where a subordinate was charged with insubordination toward a supervisor that didn't play out in one of these scenarios that you described earlier.
Understood. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure. Move on to the third update. All right, this one is implicit bias training. And I want to just take a moment to talk about the implicit bias training and why we believe it was important for our department to lean forward into this training. Implicit bias is our unconscious stereotypes, attitudes, and behaviors that simply can be used in the way in which we judge someone else. As we all know, with the current dialogue on police reform, police transparency, and legitimacy, our department has positioned ourselves to open the door for all of our personnel to feel comfortable about having some of these tough conversations. So we're always looking at ways, as I spoke about earlier, we're looking for ways all across the board on how we can be better at protecting and serving. And this training is one of the methods that we looked at and initiated in 2021 with the main goal of helping to educate our personnel on making better decisions and understanding what biases exist. This training trains our officers to develop an awareness of their personal implicit bias, understand how those biases can influence their behaviors, and devise ways to prevent biases from leading to the unfair treatment of members of the public. It should be noted that all of our state police personnel, commissioned personnel, have already received an 8-block of training with this. Starting last year, we started this training. This is another update that we want to share with you because we believe it's important. This has been a known hot button topic as well across the current trends in law enforcement is implicit bias and how we react to those folks based off of our own perceived biases. And I'll pause right there and open up the floor for any questions on that training.
Commissioners? And you said this has already started. Has it gone troop wide?
Entire commissioned personnel within our department have already been trained in implicit bias.
Is there any plans on ongoing?
Yeah, we expect that through in-service that we'll continue to speak to the implicit bias, and we're going to also look at how do we institute this as the years come, because when you start onboarding new personnel, we have to make sure that this is continued. Right now, there is no specific requirement through post for us to institute it. We took it upon ourselves to initiate it because of one of the things we believe would have helped or would help add resources to our personnel when interacting with the public. I'll cover number 4. And that's going to speak to policy changes. And these are a couple of them I just wanted to make known to the body. In-car cameras and our body-worn camera policy. We most recently updated this policy in April of this year. And the highlights I wanted to make known to the board and to the public is that we now have put in our policy that all cameras will be on and ready to record at all times while on duty. We've also, this one was big, we added additional body cameras to the department, and we've issued body cameras to all of our plainclothes personnel working in all of our plainclothes personnel, commissioned personnel that are with the rank of lieutenant or below have now been also issued body worn cameras. We've added into the policy that supervisors will document and report misconduct such as unacceptable, improper, unlawful behavior, and that will be reported directly now to the troop commander as well for his or her review. Supervisors shall also review their personnel's camera recordings, which is tracked by the Axon Performance Program. And I'll have Captain Stelly, who will explain a little bit about that here in a minute. But the last point I want to share, we added into our policy that supervisors shall also document behavior that warrants coaching or further training, but is not considered misconduct via the Axon Performance on-screen checklist and comment section. They also are to consult with the supervisor, with the shift supervisor, and determine what type of plan of corrective action is needed in the event that that is observed and documented on the personnel. I'll pause for a moment, if you would. I want to allow Captain Stelly to give us some comments about the Exxon performance system.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning. My name's David Stelly. I work with Louisiana State Police's Technology and Business Support Unit. I just want to take a second. This is Alan Carpenter. He's a business analytics specialist, also in the Technology and Business Unit. He has been instrumental in transitioning us from a lot of legacy and tired technology systems to some more cutting edge 2022 technology innovations. One of the biggest ones, I don't know if you've heard about, is our CAD and records management system. The CAD is a computer aided dispatch, something that we've never had before. It tracks our uniformed patrol officers' activities. It also gives us the opportunity for our plainclothes officers to record initial contacts with the citizens that we come into contact with. So focusing on our body cams and dash cams. Years before I got here in technology and business, the department contracted with a company called Axon. Now it's Axon International. They provide body cams, what we call dash cams. That's the videos that sit, or the video recorders that sit in the units. They also provide us with our tasers. Along with the hardware, Axon International also provides us with software to manage the devices and manage all the videos that are created from those devices. That software package is called evidence.com. It's wonderful. So if I had my body cam on right now and I recorded it, once that recording was finished, let's say even during the shift or after the shift, I can take that body cam and drop it into the dock. It shoots those videos into the evidence.com platform. At that point, the officer is able to go in, he can title that video. He can also categorize that video depending on what's on the video, whether it may be just a plain old citizen encounter where we're helping someone change a tire, or it may be a traffic citation that was issued or a criminal arrest. We're able to categorize all those videos. It creates a huge library. We're able to go in there. If need be, we can share the videos with prosecutors. We can share the videos with other members of the department for review. I think that was some of the things that the chief was talking about, those supervisor reviews, if there's something on the video that needs to be reviewed. So with that library, we've always, or for years now, the department has had a practice of supervisor reviewing the video sporadically. Last year, Axon International came in with an add-on to their evidence.com library. It's a software package that sits on top of the video library. And what we were able to do with Axon Performance is put all of our officers in there with a hierarchy. Once a quarter, the supervisors get a notification. And what the performance system does, it goes is for each individual user that has a body worn camera, it will go and randomly pick 4 videos. The supervisor, he can intentionally go and pick the videos, but for performance, the computer picks the videos, submits them to the supervisor for review. As the supervisor is reviewing those videos, the system gives him the opportunity to make comments, maybe make a comment about a training strategy, something where maybe we need a little bit of coaching, and it can be on the officer's conduct. It may be a training situation where it's an officer safety issue, maybe where the supervisor is seeing something that the officer is maybe potentially exposing himself to harm. So it's a mentoring and coaching tool. What reassures us is that it's we have no say so in the videos that get picked. The computer does it for us. And again, it's 4 videos per user per quarter.
Any questions on that?
Yeah, I had a quick question. So it pulls the 4 random. Is there anything in policy to mandate pulling for that supervisor to pull 2 more, 4 more, 3 more? What, you know what I'm saying? Or is it just the 4 randoms? He watches those, observes those, critiques those, and that's it? Because you said specifically. So in the new policy, is it just mandated for the 4, or does he pull others, or is it that just in the issue of a complaint or a concern?
I think as policy stands right now, they have to review the videos that are randomly pulled, and I believe a criminal arrest has to be reviewed as well during that quarterly review.
Is there any training in place for supervisors to understand the sorts of circumstances that they might hear about that might make it more likely that they pull video than choose not to pull videos, other than the 4 or I think you said there was another, but is there any training to kind of guide them as to the sorts of circumstances where maybe they ought to go ahead and pull some video?
If I could, Mr. Chairman, we have, I can tell you, since sitting in this seat, we've seen an increase where our supervisors are actually going above and beyond just what's required of the 4 videos. For example, fresh pursuit that may have occurred. We're seeing now where our supervisors are immediately checking for that body cam footage to determine if there was any incidents or issues that occurred while the personnel was responding to that particular pursuit or incident. So to answer the question, I would say that we're seeing they're not just limiting themselves to what's required via policy or the random selections. They are also going and looking at video based on the circumstances of what happened during the shift, or what may have occurred, or what they may have heard either by bypassers or someone passing on information. They're looking and taking the initiative to go forward and look beyond what's expected on policy.
But I guess the point is, and thankful that they are doing it. I know we have a lot of good people and they want to do the right thing. Like, none of this is an indication that we think that they're not, but sometimes no matter how well intended you are, there's a road that's paved with good intentions. No matter how good intended you are, sometimes additional training on the sorts of circumstances that they ought to be thinking about pulling tapes might help them, since they're willing to go ahead and do it to pull the right ones, and when should they do that sort of thing. So just something to give some thought to. Commissioner Matt.
Has the videos that have been used, is the chain of evidence maintained so that you could use those in courts of law for prosecution purposes as well?
Yes, sir. So the evidence.com software has a tremendous amount of backend support. And one of the things that it offers is a true audit trail of the video. The software package tracks the electronic path of that video from when it is captured from the physical device. It will show anything that occurs with that video. If someone accesses the video, someone views the video, if the video is shared with another officer, another entity, or another agency, that audit trail is captured and it's available to the department if they ask for it.
And is it normally for instance, on DWIs, would it be a part of the evidence that's submitted as a part of the package that goes to district attorneys?
If it's asked for, that audit trail can be provided.
What about the video itself?
The troops,
So we get tons of public records requests, Commissioner. And depending on the request, if that comes in from the district attorney's office, we definitely will provide that information, the video or evidence that's requested.
Commissioner
If I
Crawford.
may. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And these random video reviews are in addition to the required reviews, such as a use of force or a pursuit. So these are in addition to any incidents that would obviously require the supervisor, the direct line, or first line supervisor and the commander of the troop to review.
yes, sir. If the supervisors are required to do a video review because of a use of force investigation, the videos that are carved out By performance, separate and apart from that.
And as you know, with the use of force videos right now, we've also instituted where that follows a chain of command for review. It starts at the supervisory, first line supervisory level, and it goes all the way up to our command inspector. We've added that authority because we want to make sure that we do not miss or overlook. We've brought it all the way up to the level of a major that has to sign off. The major of that particular division has to sign off on any use of force documented reports or incidents.
Well, you talked about, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
No, just for clarification. So as these supervisors review these videos, I'm assuming anything from a quality improvement, with a quality improvement eye to a disciplinary eye to a prosecutorial eye. So depending on what they see in those videos, correct?
Correct. And as I stated, we've seen an increase of our supervisors going above and beyond looking at that. We've had incidents recently where they reviewed something that was not right, immediately notified the troop commander. That information was forwarded up. We initiated an administrative investigation and concluded the investigation based off of the supervisor going above and beyond and catching infractions from the video review that they looked at.
Thank you.
I know there are certain times, you talked about everybody has dash cam, all the certain level troopers have dash cams and body cams. And I know there are certain circumstances where they automatically come on. I know you said they have to be on and ready to record. Just because they're on and ready to record doesn't mean they will actually be recording, right?
That's correct.
So why don't we speak to the times when they will automatically activate the recording and the times when troopers are being trained that they have to put them on?
Yes, sir. As I understand it, once a trooper activates his lights in the vehicle, it triggers the system to start recording, the camera systems to start recording the situation. The troopers have the ability to manually power it off or mute it. That option is based through policy. We have several incidents where they can mute it if they're for the sake of some right to privacy at a hospital, restroom, or what have you. They should not be recording. If they're in a situation or on a scene where they may be making arrests, they can mute any transactions or communications that are occurring that should not be recorded, such as criminal history that's being reported back from the dispatcher. They're allowed to mute that so it's not airing on the body cam. So there are some situations where they are, through policy, allowed to pause it or prevent or mute it from capturing data or information that should not be captured on body cam. And I know I'm missing something, y'all chime in on it.
No, you're on spot, Chief.
Well, I guess part of my concern and what I would like to hear about it. Policies are in place in the event that a body cam is inappropriately muted or stopped.
Yeah, we will, once that is observed, we will conduct what we call, it would be documented, of course, through incident form, and we will look at that as an administrative investigation, depending on the scenario, the situation. If it's something that is administratively deemed to be investigated, we will. If there's any type of criminal wrongdoing, of course, that will be routed through our criminal division to review if that occurred.
Could you speak about the question of automatic upload of the videos? Does that occur? Or is it incumbent on the trooper to turn his camera in and let it get downloaded or uploaded at that point? So
I can speak to it, but I'm gonna defer to our expert.
So the upload, we have single bay docs that are issued with the cameras, where when the troopers finish with a shift or at any point during that shift, they so choose, they can drop that camera in the dock. The docks are tethered to our state police network, which is internet-based, and it will push those videos into the evidence.com library. The way the new cameras are set up, it doesn't have to be physically dropped in a dock. It can be plugged in straight to our MDT. We can upload it that way. We also add the troops, and now we're purchasing multi-bay docks. So we'll have it at the troop. So if a trooper visits the troop, They can go take their body cam, drop it in the dock while it's charging. It's getting a firmware update if there's one available for it. And it's also uploading the videos into the evidence.com library.
What stops a trooper from forgetting or failing to put it in the dock?
If I may, let me just read this. This may help too. In our policy, it says that the trooper shall ensure that all body worn camera and in-car camera systems recording are uploaded into the cloud storage of evidence.com at the end of each shift and as per the manufacturer specifications. It shall ensure that his or her in-car camera system is always powered on and ensure that his or her body worn camera is powered when they are in service and subject to call. So they are required by policy at the end of shift to upload that information. If it's not uploaded at the end of shift, they have to report that immediately to a supervisor, and it's then documented through our tracking system on why that did not occur.
Is there an audit of? Obviously, with the computers we have these days, we could track. Let's suppose he doesn't dock it and doesn't report it to his supervisor that he didn't dock it or she didn't dock it. What's the mechanism in place to ensure that that can be determined and caught?
The system is a genius. We can document, we can see it through an audit. Once, if it's not been uploaded or docked, they can determine when it was last docked. And even if at that moment, if the battery was, what power percentage the battery was on at that time, we're able to determine that basically when they eventually dock it at some point. If they haven't docked it, we can track it through the system if they failed to dock it when they were supposed to.
And how long will the camera itself maintain the video? If I kept it for a week and didn't dock it, will the first couple of days of that week be lost?
No, sir, it's gonna stay on the camera.
It's got to have some limitations on memory. though,
It
right?
does. I don't have those exact specifications with me. But it's pretty robust in its recording. I don't know the exact how much hours of video it can capture before it's just gonna tap out. I can get that for you.
Do you believe that would be the sort of thing that would be caught in y'all's mechanism before it taps out? The fact that it hadn't been docked in the last week or whatever the case might be.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, we could probably find a ton of scenarios where they can probably miss something. But my hope is that the supervisors after each shift are engaged enough to check their folks' cameras and make sure that they're being docked. If
We all hope that, but
that's,
hope without check is not a good thing.
So defer to Alan on that exact question about checks and balances.
So as we talk in the next section about some of the technology we've brought in, the CAD and RMS system, the CAD tracks every trooper who is on a scene. So if there's a particular incident, a pursuit, a use of force, an arrest, every trooper who is out on that scene is captured by the CAD. So their information is captured there. So the supervisor can see which units were available on scene. When the report is done and the trooper takes his body cam and docks it, part of the labeling is they have to dock it with the REN or the report number that's associated with that event. And then the body cam, a link to that body cam is placed on the bottom of each report. So if I have 5 officers who are on scene on the CAD event, and I have 4 officers body cams linked to the report, that's a check and balance that the supervisor can use it doesn't prevent the trooper from not docking it. They would still be in violation of policy, but it gives the supervisor a check and balance when they're reviewing reports to make sure that, okay, I had 5 officers on scene. Why do I only have 4 body cams linked to this report?
As we all know, there are instances when sometimes video doesn't make it in.
Right.
We want to
And-
make sure that there are mechanisms in place, checks and balances to ensure that all of the available video.
And that's what this does, right? The requirement on scene, they pull a report, they dock the camera without any other, once that camera is docked by policy, they do that, the interface that is built between our RMS system and the Axon system automatically links those videos. So the supervisor, when they're doing their normal review of reports, at the bottom of the report, they'll be able to see all body cam video that is attached to that event. And it should set off something, right? If I have 5 officers there, 3 body cams, and the supervisor just excludes that, well, then that's another issue that technology is not going to solve. But the check and balance in place is between the CAD, the RMS, and the interface with the body cam.
With the technology y'all have and the technology that exists, I think what would make us feel more comfortable is at the end of a shift, if the camera's not plugged in and downloaded, if there was some alert that was sent to the shift supervisor, that kind of takes a lot of the human error out of it, or a lot of the coulda, shoulda, woulda.
I think it would make,
out of it.
I think it would
Is
make
that-
all of us
is
feel
that
better.
possible?
I don't believe that's a possibility with Axon at this point in time.
And I've seen, if I may, the evidence.com on the performance platform. I have seen alerts where this camera hasn't been uploaded in this amount of time. Or also if this camera wasn't powered on for, this amount of time during shift. Can you maybe discuss?
Yeah, there are some analytics that you can use with the performance mechanism, right? Where you can go in and a supervisor can see and make sure videos have been uploaded. It's not on a shift by shift basis. It is that supervisor gets notice and they can, when they're logging in and looking at, they can see, but it wouldn't be on a per shift. It could go several days and the supervisor sees his dashboard and says, oh, we need to go back and do this. That should prevent any long-term issue of any body cam being lost, but it is not at the end of shift. Each supervisor gets alert that every supervisor has done this. It's going to take a little physical interaction with the software for the supervisor to look at his dashboard, follow up. They should be reviewing in conjunction with that performance software, and they're checking their reports and looking at the day-to-day activity of what their troopers are doing. They should be able to catch all instances where before it was incumbent on the supervisor or the trooper to do it. Now the software alerts the supervisor, or they have mechanisms as checks and balances in place that we didn't have before.
And I guess just if that evidence was uploaded late, that was maybe the alert that we've seen. But it is as simple as looking at a chart on the performance.
Yes,
to
sir, it
see
is.
A big red, 80% is not uploaded, and you'll be notified by that.
Yes, sir.
Are there any policies that speak to the duties of the supervisor?
Yes, sir.
Do the kinds of reviews that we're talking about? In addition to the policy that dictates that the trooper put it in, what policies are in place to ensure that the supervisors do the sort of manual checks and balances that apparently will be necessary? And you don't have to quote it line and verse for me right now, but
Yes, sir, we
that
do.
would be a concern that I have for sure. That
Well-
there are policies to ensure that not only the troopers, but the supervisors understand what their roles are in this situation.
Yes, sir. It's in policy. It's basically saying that they should review body worn camera, system recording, and ensure that the equipment is operating properly. Officers are using the devices appropriately and in accordance with policy. So they are required, or they have responsibility to also double check and verify that that stuff is happening the way it's intended to happen.
And is there also something in policy relative to the failure of an officer to activate his cameras under circumstances where policy where they should be activated?
Yes, sir.
And I take it that would carry consequences.
Absolutely. It'll be an investigation, and we'll carry it from the investigation. The facts of the investigation will determine where we go from there.
Of course, you have to determine whether it was legitimate or not, but I mean, there's a policy that you could go to and say, well, you violated this policy.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Chairman, we'll be happy to share this with you. We spoke about it. It should be uploaded on our lsp.org as well. If not, we'll make sure that you get a copy, and the commissioners get it as well. So if there's any question that we may have missed something, I think we've got a pretty detailed and laid out explanation and instructions to the supervisors, the commanders, and the operators of the body worn camera and in-car camera systems.
Question.
Commissioner Rico.
One last question as it relates to the dash cams. They automatically trigger when they activate the lights. I understand that. How many seconds prior to activating the lights can you go back?
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Hasn't changed, right? No, chief. 30 seconds.
Okay. So if that information was subpoenaed, you would get the 30 seconds prior to the lights being activated.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
What shuts off the camera? Deactivating the lights?
If they deactivate the lights, are manually power it down.
If I may, I just had my new camera installed yesterday evening, picked it up this morning. And on the Axon FLIR or the 3, if the vehicle is on, the camera's on, and there is no way to turn the in-car camera itself off. It records on activation of lights, and then to turn it off, requires that manual button push to turn it off. It does have the front and rear cameras. In the front camera, it has 2 lenses, so it is recording from 2 different lenses on the front video. And if there's a recording that, let's say you record an incident and then you record another incident within that 60 seconds of that first incident, it's going to tie it to that first incident. So you can't, stop your camera and then start another recording and then call it a different incident. It's going to be one and the same. And that's just, I believe regions 2 and 3 are fully outfitted with those new Axon 3 cameras. And I would imagine that that region 1 is nearly complete of their installation. So that's a big step in the right direction.
Thank you. We appreciate sharing that one too, because that's.
I just learned it 2 hours ago.
Any other questions on that?
Okay, we have a couple more and we'll be done and out of the way.
We
I
want
do-
to take the time.
All the time you
Yeah,
want.
We want to take the time to
And we appreciate this because
reverse us and
Yes,
the
sir.
public on what we're trying to do to improve some situations that need improving.
all right. And then the next area I want to just cover as it relates to policy is just a few things that we added that we thought were critical in the aftermath of the committee that was formed through legislation and discussed police reform and transparency. But in our use of force policy, I wanted to be noted that we've added a ban on chokeholds unless there is deadly force is justified, should I say. We have added that into our policy that chokeholds are banned. We've also added that
Is
impact.
that something that's being done around the country or where?
Absolutely. When we looked at best practices and when we looked at how we were going to institute and update policies, we did take a look across the country and look at what other departments were doing. This has been a nationwide trend to add that verbiage to most policies and as it relates to use of force, the ban. But we did put that in our policy with the notation that, of course, unless deadly force is justified, we definitely want we want officers, and we also want the public to be made aware that we train our officers to go home every night. And by any means necessary, if it's justified and it's procedural, then that would be looked at and be considered. All right. We've also added impact weapons to the head or neck is banned unless deadly force is justified. Also added that mandatory carrying of a taser to provide a less lethal option to our officers on duty is also something that we've added to the policy. And in particular to the duty to intervene, I spoke about earlier, that language is clearly documented in policy. Commissioner Crawford, I believe you asked about it. We also just want to make reference when you asked about what would happen to a subordinate. It's actually documented in our policy what would happen if they file a particular report and is run up through the chain of command for review, and then we'll consider that particular incident and look at it thoroughly. So that's added into the policy. We spoke already just now. I was trying to save that portion of the technology piece that they spoke about, but that's my next point I want to bring you and the public to is that we're making tons of technology advancements across our department. And the 2 main things that I want to highlight that have made the most immediate impact were now the deployment of our e-citation electronic ticketing device and the deployment of our new e-crash solutions. The e-ticket or e-citation device and the new e-crash solution has helped to make our processes more efficient, manageable, and streamlined data collection across the state. I also want to take a moment and pause and allow Captain Staley, I know this is one of the big accomplishments, but I want to give him the mic as well to speak to the e-solution, e-crash solution and the e-citation device. I've been getting a lot of feedback from my level in the senior command. We're traveling to the Hammond area and we actually saw a trooper on a traffic stop pull behind him and realized he was out working with one of our newly deployed ticket devices and asked him how long he had been on a stop. And he raved about how much time it has saved with his interaction on that particular traffic stop that he was having. It was a traffic stop for speeding, and normally it would take, I guess, a lot longer than what it's taking now with the new device being deployed. It's saving us a lot of time. What does that mean for us in the sense of managing personnel? Well, we're short. It helps us to now allow that trooper, if he sees someone with driving behaviors that need to be addressed, to deal with it and then get back in service immediately and attend to any other public safety issues. But if I could, if you would allow me, I'd like to ask.
I guess before we get related to that, and related more to the issues that we're focusing on here today, the shorter the interaction, the less likelihood that there will be a negative interaction.
That's definitely noted as well, sir, and we appreciate knowing that this device helps create that less of time of encounter with our public. You know, if that's what he's dealing with or she's dealing with issuing a citation, then by all means, we want that to occur, and then we want to get back in service as much or as quickly as possible. Yeah, Mr. Ellis?
Oh, thank you, Chief. So in a nutshell, it's a handheld wireless device. It's a smart device. We're able to electronically capture all the information that we need to complete a citation report. We're able to capture a digital signature from the driver. We're able to provide the driver with a receipt, basically a printout of a ticket. It's a little bit smaller than what we're dealing with now. As soon as the transaction is complete, the data gets pushed to a electronic dashboard, a library that captures all the ticket information. It also has the ability to push that information to Mark 43, which is our main records management system for all of our enforcement activities. And I'll let Alan delve a little bit deeper into that, but very much positive feedback from the users. As the chief alluded to, reduces the amount of time that a trooper or a DPS officer is on the side of the road, lessens the inconvenience to the driver. Naturally, I mean, they're inconvenience because they're probably getting issued a traffic citation, but it cuts down the amount of time that they're having to spend with us on the side of the road. And as for the connection into our records management system, I'll let Alan delve a little bit deeper into that.
So the goal of the RMS and CAD system was not only to provide enhanced capabilities for tracking our troopers and collecting information for stops, but also to source as a repository where all of our data will live. So the criminal reports, traffic reports information is captured in the RMS. The e-citation device issues, as the captain said, streamlines the manner in which the troopers are able to issue tickets. That's also collects data. It efficiently moves information back and forth. The dashboard allows us to almost real-time monitor. A supervisor can sit at a desk and see on a map where tickets are being issued based on stops. The supervisor, that gives them a way to look at information. The interface pushes it to the RMS. So now instead, if I have an event where I have a ticket issued, but I also have a report written, I'm not looking in 3 different systems in order to approve this. It's all going into one and it's linked. It gives a supervisor a better situational awareness of all activities that he or she should be looking at when they're reviewing this report, but it allows us to capture greater data. The goal is now that we have the e-citation that's collecting data and pushing it in, like I said, near real time into this RMS. The e-crash, which is another piece that we're talking about, we're building an interface there. So the interface will be able to push in as well. So now we will be able to start looking at where our crashes occur. What is our root cause of our crashes? Where are our citations being written? What are the violations we're writing on our citations? Are they in conjunction working towards one another, or are they separate and apart? All my citations are here for this, but my crashes are over here for different violations. So it allows us to get more information in. Safety aspect also, by connecting the two, we can put cautions, we can put alerts in our RMS system on persons that are there, not just NCIC alerts, but also other cautions and alerts. And it allows the trooper real time to have an understanding of that information, so that if a trooper writes a ticket in Lake Charles and the person, stops a person there and writes them a ticket, or puts a vehicle out of service, and then a couple hours later, they're stopped in Slidell, prior to the implementation of the RMS and the e-citation type connectivity, we wouldn't know that. We would have no visibility of that until days later. Now we're able to see it throughout the day, throughout the shift, increases awareness, increases information that we can go through. An example on some of those cautions, not just a de-escalation type. We had a trooper in Troop A came across a severely autistic individual, struggling with them, trying to deal with this. When they worked through that, they were able to ultimately come with a positive resolution, connecting the parents. We were able to put a flag in our system so that if any other trooper comes across that person, that they immediately know that there's something there that they need to deal with. It's not a resistance, it's a medical issue. So the technology allows us to better understand that type of information, be able to share it statewide across all of our troops and our sections.
That's already in place?
Yes, sir, that is.
So going off of that, we've already issued devices to all 9 of our troops. We're right at 500 devices issued out. And I think next week, we're going to be issuing out devices to our commercial motor vehicle inspection teams. And then eventually we're going to empower the personnel assigned to our Bureau of Investigation, our gaming folks, our narcotics agents, our detectives are going to have pooled devices that they can pull from in the event they're going work traffic enforcement, or they're just needing them for other purposes.
Will this device allow the collection of statistical data so that y'all are in a position to look at things like potential profiling issues and that sort of thing?
Yes, sir.
Why don't you
Once,
speak to that a little bit.
so what the information is doing is we're capturing basically the same thing we would previously on a handwritten ticket, except a written ticket. You're capturing the driver's license, race, sex, date of birth, information there, but it's handwritten and then it's stored in a file cabinet. Here, the information is pulled in and we can run daily statistics. We can run to look at and understand that information. We'll have the ability to do it in both, limited somewhat in the e-citation command center. It's looking more at violations and where the person is and stuff. But as we're pushing it into the RMS allows us to capture that data. And we're able to then on all of our interactions, we're able to capture race, sex, demographics of the officer and also related to the individuals that they come in contact with.
Now, an obvious shortcoming is that unless the driver's license is taken and put into this device and the ticket is being issued, you're not going to get any of the statistical information. Right?
So
Yeah, and that's correct. I know, for example, if a trooper makes a traffic stop and he doesn't document or issue a citation, if he's not putting information, she's not putting information in, then chances are we won't be able to capture that. But we're hoping that with these particular devices, that even when they have any type of contact, that they put something into the device. So that's, again, the expectation. But we know with human error or with human ability, we may not.
So where we're trying to go is we'll also be able to document contacts or stops, right? So I don't have to issue a citation. The same muscle memory, I can stop you, ask for some identification, capture the information, talk to you, capture it, and then there's additional reporting that we're able to now do that are not just citations. It'll be contact reports that'll allow us to get a better understanding of not only just tickets, but also contacts, the resolution of those contacts and the demographics associated with those
So
contacts.
assuming that there's adequate acceptance and training of this notion, you'll be able to have the statistical data on not only who got tickets, but who didn't get tickets.
Yes, sir.
So that could be evaluated. And of course, obviously, I take it y'all can use this in conjunction with the cameras to where you can review who's being stopped.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Not being ticketed versus who's being stopped and given tickets.
Yes, and so how does that work? When you talk about the device and the system, the CAD system, this is another mechanism that our supervisors can use when we're evaluating the performance of our personnel on the road, such as what we talked about, Mr. Chairman, just to make sure that there's no inappropriate dialogue with the public or citizens that he or she may encounter as a trooper. We can use the video camera footage. We can use the e-citation data now to see if they're stopping folks, certain demographics of folks. We can use that data to track it.
You know, certain parts of towns being targeted
Yes,
as opposed to other parts of town.
and that's the goal, to be able to use those analytics so that we can be better at how we manage and deploy our troopers.
From a,
Commissioner
just a
Cochran.
tech logistical standpoint, so you said, I heard smartphones, is this broadband based LTE, is it 5G? So is it dependent on having connectivity? That type of
These are
thing. So-
basically built off of a Google Android type platform. So
Okay.
instead of being activated as a phone, it's simply using that platform and it's Wi-Fi enabled, so it communicates back with the car through currently right now MiFi devices. The state's looking at enhancing that capability and giving the troopers greater flexibility by using phones as a hotspot. But this device connects directly into the vehicle via Wi-Fi, and it's based off that Android device. And so they have a limited radius based on that connectivity at this point in time. The enhancements of using phones as hotspots allows us to give them greater flexibility if they're on foot patrol or they're somewhere where they're not near their car, that they will have the greater flexibility for these devices to be able to use that for all contacts, hurricane type, situations, or where we're not necessarily assigned specifically to a car.
And the device will function without connection to the internet. It'll store it locally, and then once that
Still hits
connection
the
to the
Wi-Fi.
internet,
Yes, sir. Then
once it hits the
downloads.
Wi-Fi again, it'll catch up.
Any other questions?
The final update I want to give you, number 6, is this about the creation of 2 of our specialized sections that we very, very happy to get off and running. In February of this year, Colonel Davis announced the creation of the Force Investigative Unit. The FIU began its role as a statewide unit consisting of about 14 specially trained detectives that will investigate all Department of Public Safety related use of force incidents, including but not limited to deadly force, retaliatory force, and in custody deaths. And that the purpose of the creation of this section was in lieu of the colonel wanting to have more visibility of use of force incidents that occur within our department, being more engaged and being more made aware once they occur. They are a direct report. The commander for this new unit is a direct report to Colonel Davis. So he will be briefed on any in custody deaths, any use of force situations that may occur through our Department of Public Safety personnel. So that was basically the notion behind this, in that these investigators will be specially trained on how to investigate these use of force incidents. In October of this year, the department also announced the creation of the Professional Standards and Compliance section. This section will be responsible for overseeing, coordinating, and implementing the numerous opportunities for growth, advancement, and enhancement revealed to our agency through our ongoing assessments and evaluations. They will also be reviewing policies, the overall strategic vision of the department, and a plethora of other tasks as we move forward. So you may have seen that. We actually did that in a press release so that the public is made aware that we are moving to continue to build in our areas of improvement for the department. I'll pause, Mr. Chairman, if you have any questions on those 2 updates. All right, in closing, I just want to thank you all for allowing us this opportunity to share these updates with you. I can assure you that we are doing everything we can to uphold the standards and expectations set forth. Our department is made up of the best, hardworking, and dedicated public servants who want to make a difference every day. And as I leave this table and we depart without any further questions, Mr. Chairman, I just want to leave everyone, the public and yourselves, with the one word, and that word is resilience. Resilience. According to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, resilience is defined as the ability to recover or adjust easily to misfortune or change. I use that word because this moment that we're in, this time that we're in right now, this department, with its rich history and tradition of serving and protecting our citizens of Louisiana, we're not looking at this moment as a misfortune, but rather we're looking at this, and I hope you all see it, as a moment of growth. We've shared with you just 6 updates. There's a ton of other things that are in the hopper that we're working on. And I believe once it becomes in a level of production where we can share that, you all and the public that we serve will be very happy and pleased to know that we're making change. One of my mentors used to use this phrase. He says, healthy things grow, growing things change, and change brings about challenges. We're faced right up at the intersection of challenges in making our department better. Change is not easy for anyone, And I hope that you all are seeing that we have a leader who's making a difference. I'm standing here and representing, and I'm proud of the men and women who are serving and representing our entire department. I had the opportunity to visit our supervisors at Troop B and Kenner just on Tuesday. And I was pleased to get the feedback from them. Yes, it's not easy. If this work was easy, I think we'll see a whole line of folks walking in trying to do what we do. But I pray and I ask that you would just trust us and trust the leadership and administration that we have to make this department what we know it to be, and that's elite and premier. We're working every day to do that. So thank you for this time and moment to speak with you and share these updates.
Just briefly before y'all step down. Obviously, I've talked to you about this and I'll happily say in public what I've told you in our conversations. I firmly believe that a vast majority, 90-something% or more of the people who work for this department are great, wonderful, dedicated servants who have the right thing in mind. Unfortunately, I think it goes without saying that there have been some who have not been there, and there may be some still present. I'm not talking about any one person in particular at this point, but you used the word trust. That's the word that I want to leave you with. Resilience is a beautiful and wonderful word for what we're talking about right now, but trust is another word that we have to also. And this agency is going to have to earn back the trust that it once had, because there are substantial parts of our society that have lost faith and trust. And we've got to do everything that we can. And you've got to do everything that you can. And I believe that y'all are trying. I'm not saying y'all aren't, but to regain that trust, because the only way for it to be the organization that you describe is not only for it to be striving, but for it to earn back that trust.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. And listen, we don't take that lightly. I don't want anything given to me easily. I want to earn it. And I hope that I can tell you the folks and the men and women that represent this department every day go to work trying to earn that trust. I can't guarantee you that it won't be any other mistakes, and we won't make any other failures.
We're human beings. God didn't
Right.
make us perfect.
But I can tell you that if it rises to the level where we have to address it, we're going to address it and deal with it and make it right to the best of our ability. That's what we all signed up to do. So I hope that you're seeing the other piece is that, we're trying to change the culture of going from that warrior mentality to a guardian-minded law enforcement officer. Folks are looking for the other part of what we signed up to do. Every one of us signed up to protect and serve. We've done the protecting part very well. It's the serving piece that we're working on, trying to master that craft. And so I appreciate that. And I stand to the challenge to earn your trust, to earn the public's trust, to earn the men and women who we represent. Each one of us want to be trusted doing the job that we do. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Anybody else?
I
Yes,
just-
sir, Commissioner.
I'd just like to reiterate and say that I appreciate very much this review. It's given me a lot better perspective of what's going on in the department. And I'm very thankful for all of y'all providing it today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is in the matter of Albert Paxton, Department of Public Safety and Corrections, Office of State Police, docket number 21258-RB-R-B regarding attorney's fees, whether they should be awarded. I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss the issues relating to misconduct. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. You gotta make the executive session legal. I'll be need to take a roll call vote, please. And
Right.
please, I see all of y'all are leaving. Make sure all of your devices, all of your briefcases and everything are taken with you as you go out.
Ryan Crawford,
Yes.
Leonard Knapp,
Yes.
Monty Matalago,
Yes.
Jared Ricky, and Euless Simeon.
Yes. Ms. Burns, you ready? Okay, well, we're coming back into public session. At least we'll entertain a motion to come back into public session. Move. Been
Second.
moved and seconded. Take a roll call vote, please.
Brian Crawford,
Yes.
Leonard Knapp,
Yes.
Monty Matalago,
Yes.
Jared Ricky,
Yes.
and Ulysses.
And we've been in executive session, open the floor up for any motions or discussions on item 4 of the business part of the agenda relative to the matter of Albert Paxton, Department of Public Safety and Corrections, docket number 21258-RD, regarding attorneys, whether attorneys fees should be awarded.
Chairman,
Yes,
on
Commissioner.
the
Brown.
aforementioned matter that you just prescribed, and just reflective, on December the 8th, 2022, the LSPC considered whether to award attorney's fees to appellant in accordance with Louisiana State Police Commission Rules 13.26. At this time, I make a motion to award the attorney's fees to the appellant for this particular case in the amount of $1,500.
I would second it.
Do we have any further discussion on the matter? Yeah, let's take a roll call vote. Commissioner Montalongo was not on the commission at the time this matter was originally heard, so will not participate in the vote.
Okay. Brian Crawford,
Yes.
Leonard Knapp,
Yes.
Jared Ricky,
Yes.
and Ulysses.
Okay, the yeses have it. There will be an award of $1,500 in attorney's fees. You did reserve the right to speak. Is there anything you want to say? Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is the director's report.
Fine.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. A brief director's report. Behind tab number 5, you'll find the expenditures for the commission as of December 6th. Any questions? The next item I wanted to call your attention to is the press release that was sent out by the Department of Homeland Security on December 1st. Secretary Mayorkas announced the inaugural members of the Tribal Homeland Security Advisory Council, and our own Commissioner Parit was appointed to serve on that 15-member Tribal Homeland Security and Advisory Council.
That's a national advisory council.
Correct, for the Department of Homeland Security. And regarding just a reminder about annual trainings for commissioners, there are a few that need to complete their ethics training and preventing sexual harassment training. And I'll be sending out reminder emails and texts and throughout the remainder of December. Those are due by December 31st. Any questions? And finally, the last item on my director's report is also in tab 5 behind the expenditures is a list of general of the meeting dates for 2023. It was posted in General Circular 229 back in early November, but it outlines the meeting dates for 2023. It's still the second Thursday of the month, and our next meeting will be January 12th. That concludes my report.
Thank you. That takes us to the end of our items on the agenda. Unless there's an objection, we'll have the meeting adjourned. Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned.